Welcome to this Energy Quick Chat, where we rub minds with stakeholders in the energy markets. I am Justina Okechukwu. Now, Tanzania is planning to sign a host government agreement with global energy majors, Shell, Equinor, and ExxonMobil for the country's $42 billion liquefied natural gas development this July. According to Tanzania's permanent secretary to the Ministry of Energy, Felshime Josen, the agreement is expected to pave the way for the final investment decision, which was initially planned for 2025. To tell me more about this is Amne Suedi, Managing Director of Shikana Investment and Advisory Group based in Tanzania. Thank you for joining me on Energy Frontiers today.
Thank you so much, Justina, for having me.
Now, where is Tanzania in terms of plans to sign the proposed host agreement this July?
Okay, so I believe you're referring to the LNG project. A few months ago, the parties, including the government of Tanzania and the oil companies, they basically agreed to terms of agreements in both the host government agreement, production sharing agreement, and also other project agreements. So that's kind of the first phase of the projects or negotiations, and you could say that negotiations have now closed because the terms have been agreed. But basically now the parties are in the phase of just reviewing those terms and making sure that everything is aligned, everything is robust, and this is a very important process actually to undertake because it just assures that things will be much smoother, going forward. So the plan was to sign the host government agreement this July, but I do not think that it's going to be happening, not because there is any change of mind of parties or anything, but just delays as they tend to happen in these kind of projects. So I think that the signing of the host government agreement will probably take place later during this year.
Now, bring me up to speed on negotiations for the EACOP project, that's the East African Crude Oil Pipeline project, and other LNG projects in Tanzania. Where are we on that?
Okay, so first, it's important to distinguish that the EACOP project, when it comes to Tanzania, is not looked at as an oil project, but as an infrastructure project. It's an oil project when it comes to Uganda. Tanzania is building 80% of the pipeline for the transportation of the oil, which is coming from Uganda. So right now, EACOP has reached the phase of land settlement and compensation. So essentially just compensating all the owners and resettling the people that would have to leave and resettle elsewhere to make way for this project. So this is essentially where that phase stands on EACOP, and I think once that is finished, then they will enter into the phase of projects financing and raising funds for the project. For the LNG project, it has a long way until it truly materializes. That means we're actually in the phase of production. Right now, we're still at the stage of signing the hosting agreements. These agreements, of course, there's a process to it. Even after signing, it needs to go through the cabinet ministers and adopted at the cabinet minister level. Then it needs to go to parliament, and parliament needs to basically sit down, go through these agreements, and then approve them as well. So maybe we can say that by the end of this year or maybe early next year, if we're optimistic, the parliament may have approved these agreements. Then the parties will then enter into the engineering phase, which will last approximately 2 years. Then, you have to count another 2 years for the construction phase. But also you have to remember that we're entering election season as of next year. There's the elections in 2025. So that tends to disrupt a number of things and slow down a number of things. So I think when it comes to the LNG project, the ambition is to reach production by 2029, but let us see, because there's a lot of moving pieces.
So in terms of the departure of some companies and financiers from the EACOP project, what plans are in place to address these shortcomings? If we could state it as shortcomings, that is.
Okay, so to my knowledge, no companies have actually departed. So the parties are CNOC, Total, TPDC on the government of Tanzania, and Uganda. And I think that there was pressure for Total to quit the project, just because of the pressure from Europe regarding, climate change and the perception that this project is not really good for climate change. And Total, being a French company, has to abide to these commitments that have been made regarding the climate change. But I think that despite all the pressure that's been coming from activists in Europe, Total is still there, and also other parties are still there. I think the challenging part, and this is where I think there has been some departures, is in terms of the commitments for the financing, and this can be challenging, especially if you're looking at fundraising from Europe, because of the ecology activists and the pressure that's being exercised to make this project look like, it is the worst project ever in terms of climate change. However, CNOC, which is the minority party and the Chinese counterpart in the project, had stated, I think last year, that if the commercial terms to the project make sense and they look good, then they would be they're confident that they would be able to find financing for the project. So I think that the challenge could be around financing, but maybe it's time to look elsewhere, not at Europe, for example, to finance this, because of all the pressures around the environment and climate change, etc. But looking at other players that see the value of this kind of project, and at the end of the day, the oil prices are very high. They have been high. They'll probably continue to be high. So it is a project that makes commercial sense, despite the environmental component.
Now, when we speak about policies, are there discussions or proposed changes to the existing policies around the country's oil and gas sector?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the major changes in terms of Tanzania's oil and gas sector took place in 2014, 2015, and 2016, where we had a Petroleum Act that was that was basically totally outdated. I think it dated from the 1980s. And the one that's been adopted in 2015 is a lot more modern, and it captures especially the gas sector. Well, previously it was really focused more on the oil. So, and then there's the local content regulations as well that have been adopted. I think that in terms of discussions and proposed changes, I think we're going to see this in different ways. When, for example, when you look at some projects, they choose to go through what is called miscellaneous amendments. So this is a costly route of essentially going through all the laws and policies of a country, and then identifying the laws and the policies that are a hindrance or a risk to the project in question, and then going through amending those. But then the other mechanism, which we see with the LNG project, is to essentially ensure that the agreements that are in place are ring-fenced. So these are agreements that prevail despite the law. And of course, then you have very strong stabilization clauses that provide that despite the changes that could occur in the laws, let's say in Tanzania, the regime that was negotiated in the agreements would still prevail. So I'm not really. I don't think we're going to see like massive reforms in terms of the oil and gas sector in terms of policies, because we underwent that a few years ago. But perhaps we're going to see written miscellaneous agreements. Particularly, I think the concern is some of the laws that came about in 2017 that had to do with the sovereignty of natural resources and the conscionable terms that basically were a bit scary, I think, for some investors, particularly since they provided that when it comes to oil and gas and natural resources, international arbitration is off the table. So I think that we're going to see amendments to those kind of laws in terms of provisions, but a massive reform, let's say, of like a new and a completely overhauled law or policy, I don't think that's going to be the case.
Now, speaking of arbitrations, I know Shikana has worked with the energy sector. So tell me more about what you do as an advisory and investment group.
So, Shikana Investment and Advisory Group is a company that is based in Tanzania, but also in Switzerland. And we work with foreign investors that are investing in the East African region. And we provide legal advisory, but also market entry strategies. And we just essentially ensure that the right partnerships are secured and that they're sustainable for all parties. So I think we're very much excited with the projects that are going to be that are in the pipeline. Just because also in terms of local content, we believe that firms like Shikana and other firms in Tanzania would really be able to benefit from the opportunities that would come from these kind of projects.
Now, all the best on that. Thank you so much, Amne Suedi, Managing Director at Shikana Investment and Advisory Group. And that's it from me. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.